There comes a moment in every life when betrayal strikes, not from a distant foe, but from the one you trusted most. It is a wound unlike any other, cutting deeper than a blade, for it pierces not just the body but the spirit. You sit in the silence of your pain, questioning how someone so close could inflict such agony. The laughter shared, the secrets whispered, the dreams built together now all seem like shadows of a cruel mirage. It is in these moments of despair, when the weight of betrayal feels unbearable, that the soul cries out, "Where is justice?" Will they ever understand the depth of the harm they've caused? But dear friend, take heart. God sees, God knows, and God acts. Consider this: does the Creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who counts every tear that falls from your eyes, turn a blind eye to your suffering? Far from it. Scripture tells us that He is a just God, a defender of the broken-hearted, and a champion of those who are wronged. Yet His ways, often shrouded in mystery, are not always swift or visible to human eyes. It is here, in the quiet tension between pain and promise, that faith is called to rise. Have you ever watched a seed planted deep within the soil? To the naked eye, it seems buried, forgotten, and lifeless. But beneath the surface, unseen to the human eye, a transformation is taking place. The seed is breaking, not to destroy its potential, but to release it. Your pain, though it feels like a burial, is not the end. It is the beginning of a divine process, one that God is orchestrating to bring about justice and restoration, not just for you, but in a way that reveals His righteousness to all. Still, the question lingers: how does God deal with those who hurt us? The answer lies in the very character of God. He is a God of justice, but also of mercy. He confronts the wrongdoer, not in haste or with vindictive wrath, but with a precision that brings truth to light. God's justice is not like human vengeance. Where we may wish for immediate retribution, God seeks to expose the heart, to correct the wrong, and to restore balance in His perfect timing. Perhaps the one who has caused your pain walks around unbothered, their life seemingly untouched by the consequences of their actions. But let me assure you, no deed goes unnoticed by the one who sees all. The wheels of God's justice may turn slowly, but they turn surely. It is not our place to dictate how or when He acts. Our role is to trust, to release the burden of revenge, and to focus on healing, knowing that God's justice is both certain and complete. Pause for a moment and reflect. What if your suffering is a stage on which God is preparing to display His power? What if, through your endurance, He is not only bringing justice but also revealing His strength in your weakness? The Bible speaks of God preparing a table for us in the presence of our enemies. That image is not merely poetic, it is a promise of vindication, a reassurance that those who sought to harm you will see the hand of God lifting you to a place they cannot touch. And yet, God's dealings with those who hurt us are not always visible to us. Sometimes, He works in the quiet places of the soul, convicting and correcting and calling the wrongdoer to repentance. This too is justice, for what greater punishment is there than the weight of one's own guilt? To be haunted by the truth of their actions is often more powerful than any external consequence. But whether His justice is seen or unseen, you can rest assured it is always at work. As you navigate the pain inflicted by someone close to you, hold fast to this truth. God is not indifferent. He is working on your behalf, both to heal your wounds and to address the wrong done against you. Your pain is not forgotten, your tears are not wasted, and your cries do not go unheard. Trust in His timing. Trust in His ways, for He is a God who rights every wrong, restores every loss, and redeems every story. Now, let us delve into the ways God deals with those who have caused harm. He convicts their conscience. If you've been hurt by someone close to you, if their betrayal feels like a blade that pierced not only your trust, but your very soul, take heart. God sees your pain, and He is already at work. One of the most profound ways God deals with those who have caused harm is by convicting their conscience. This is not a surface-level guilt or fleeting regret. It is a deep and undeniable awareness of the wrong they've done. It is the kind of conviction that keeps them awake at night, that haunts their thoughts, and forces them to wrestle with the consequences of their actions. Imagine this: the person who hurt you might seem unaffected on the outside. They go about their day as if nothing happened, while you carry the weight of the betrayal alone. But don't be fooled by appearances. God has a way of reaching into the quiet moments of their lives, into the places where no one else can see, and planting seeds of conviction. This seemingly unshakable confidence they display. It's a facade, a mask to hide the inner turmoil God is stirring in their soul. They think about how powerful the conscience is. It is the inner voice that whispers or sometimes shouts the truth. God uses this voice as his instrument, and when he convicts someone's conscience, it becomes impossible for them to ignore the reality of their actions. Every time they recall your kindness, your trust, your love, they are forced to confront how they shattered something precious. The memory of your pain becomes a mirror, reflecting back to them the darkness of their choices. Perhaps they've tried to silence this voice, distracting themselves with work, relationships, or even substances. But God's conviction is not something that can be easily escaped. It follows them into the stillness of the night, into moments when they least expect it. They can deny their guilt to the world, but they cannot deny it to themselves when God is at work. This is how he begins to bring justice, not with loud proclamations, but with a quiet, relentless force that they cannot evade. You might wonder, why doesn't this conviction come sooner? Why doesn't God act immediately? Remember, his timing is perfect and his ways are not our ways. God allows time for reflection, for the weight of their actions to sink in fully. This is not to delay your healing, but to ensure that when conviction strikes, it is undeniable and transformative. God doesn't merely aim to punish, he aims to bring change. He works to turn their heart toward repentance, to make them confront the depth of the hurt they caused and the consequences of their betrayal. And let me tell you this: when God convicts their conscience, it is not a fleeting moment of discomfort. It is a deep and ongoing struggle. Every word they spoke to you in anger, every action they took to harm you, every moment of betrayal, they will relive it. God will make sure of that. He will ensure they see your tears, feel your pain, and understand the gravity of what they've done. The weight of their actions will become a burden they cannot carry without acknowledging the truth. You see, God's conviction is not just about making them feel bad, it's about leading them to a place of accountability. They may resist it at first, but God is patient. He doesn't let go. He keeps pressing, keeps prodding, until they can no longer escape the reality of their actions. And when they reach that point, it will not just be a moment of regret, it will be a moment of reckoning. If you are wondering whether the person who hurt you feels anything at all, rest assured, they do or they will. God is not idle. He is not indifferent to your suffering. He is working in ways you cannot see, ways that are far more profound than any human action could achieve. His conviction is not something they can hide from, no matter how hard they try. It is a force that penetrates even the hardest of hearts. So, if you are carrying the weight of betrayal, if you feel like no one sees or understands what you've been through, remember this: God sees. He knows. And he is working. The one who caused your pain will have to face the truth. God will convict their conscience, and they will feel the full weight of their actions. Trust in his process. Your tears are not forgotten, and your pain is not ignored. God's justice is at work, even now. He removes their peace. If you've ever wondered whether the person who hurt you feels the consequences of their actions, let me assure you, God has a way of unsettling their spirit. One of the ways God deals with those who harm others is by removing their peace. While they may appear calm or unaffected outwardly, inside there is a storm brewing that only they can feel. God, in his divine justice, ensures that the peace they once enjoyed becomes elusive, slipping through their fingers like sand. You may have seen them laughing, carrying on as though nothing happened, while you're left carrying the weight of the betrayal. It's easy to think they've escaped unscathed, but that's not the truth. God's justice is not loud or flashy, it is deliberate and precise. The removal of peace is not something that can be seen by others, but it is deeply felt by the one who caused harm. Every time they try to find rest, every moment they seek comfort, it evades them because God is at work, stirring their spirit and reminding them of their actions. Consider this: peace is not just the absence of conflict. True peace comes from alignment with God's will, from knowing that you are walking in righteousness. When someone violates that righteousness by hurting others, they sever their connection to this peace. No matter how much they try to distract themselves through work, relationships, or even indulging in material things, they cannot outrun the absence of peace that God places upon their life. It follows them, weighs on them, and confronts them in the quiet moments when there's no one around to mask their guilt. Have you ever noticed that when someone has wronged you, their actions begin to haunt them? Even if they don't show it, their behavior changes. They might become irritable, restless, or overly defensive. That is the absence of peace taking its toll. God's hand is on their life, and He is making sure they feel the impact of their choices. This is not a coincidence, it is a divine response. God removes their ability to experience true rest until they face the reality of what they have done. You might think, but they seem fine. They look happy. Remember, appearances are deceiving. People can smile while their hearts are heavy. They can put on a show for the world, but no one escapes the quiet moments when they are alone with their thoughts. It is in those moments that God works the hardest. He ensures they cannot escape the guilt, the unease, and the turmoil that comes from knowing they've hurt someone they were supposed to care for. This lack of peace manifests in every area of their life. Their mind becomes a battlefield where thoughts of their actions replay over and over again. Their relationships suffer because the guilt they carry begins to affect how they interact with others. Their sleep is disrupted as God uses the stillness of the night to remind them of the harm they've caused. Even the things they once enjoyed lose their appeal because the weight of their actions overshadows everything else. And here's the truth: this removal of peace is not meant to destroy them, but destroy them. God does this because He is just and loving. He wants them to come to a place of repentance, to recognize the pain they've caused and seek to make it right. But until they do, they cannot escape the turmoil within. This is how God brings them to a place where they must face the truth, not because He delights in their suffering, but because He knows that only by facing their actions can they truly change. So, if you're wondering whether the person who hurt you is feeling anything, trust that they are. God is not passive in His response to injustice. He is actively removing their peace, ensuring they cannot ignore the consequences of their actions. While you may not see it, rest assured that God is working in ways that are beyond your understanding. Their outward appearance might suggest calm, but inside, God has stirred the waters, making it impossible for them to find rest. Trust in this process. God's justice is not a quick flash, it is a steady and unwavering force. As they struggle to find peace, God is preparing them for the next steps in His planned steps that will bring justice to you and accountability to them. For now, know that their peace is gone, and God's hand is ensuring that their actions do not go unaddressed. Your pain has not been ignored, and God's justice is already unfolding. He allows consequences to unfold. When someone has hurt you, it often feels like they get away with it. They move on with their lives while you're left picking up the pieces. But don't be deceived, God is not mocked, and His justice does not sleep. One of the most profound ways God deals with those who cause harm is by allowing the natural consequences of their actions to unfold. These consequences, while often unseen by you, are orchestrated with divine precision. Think about how life operates under the law of sowing and reaping. Every action we take plants a seed, and eventually, the seed will grow into a harvest. For those who have hurt others, their harmful actions sow seeds of pain, dishonesty, and betrayal. And just as a farmer cannot plant thorns and expect roses, they cannot sow harm and expect blessings. God ensures that the natural laws He has set in motion will hold them accountable. Have you ever heard of people who seem to have everything going their way, only for their lives to fall apart suddenly? That is often the result of consequences catching up with them. When someone betrays trust, it creates a ripple effect that eventually circles back to them. They may think they've escaped, but God's justice is patient and deliberate. Consequences don't always come immediately, but they always come, and they are often more profound than any human action could impose. Consider the relationships they've damaged. Trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. The person who betrayed you might move on to other relationships, but they will carry the weight of their actions with them. That broken trust becomes a barrier in their ability to form genuine connections. God allows these consequences to unfold not as an act of revenge, but as a way to confront them with the reality of their choices. And it doesn't stop there. The consequences extend to their peace, their success, and their inner joy. Have you noticed how people who consistently hurt others seem to find themselves in patterns of failure? It might be in their career, their friendships, or even their health. These are not coincidences. God ensures that the harm they caused you will echo in their own lives, forcing them to face the destruction they've sown. But here's the beauty of God's justice. It's not about punishment for the sake of punishment. It's about correction and redemption. By allowing consequences to unfold, God creates opportunities for the person who hurt you to recognize their wrongs and turn away from their harmful behavior. He uses these consequences as a mirror, showing them the truth of their actions. And whether they choose to change or not, they will feel the weight of their choices in ways they cannot escape. If you're wondering whether the person who hurt you is facing anything at all, trust that God is at work. He is allowing life itself to hold them accountable, ensuring they experience the same hurt they caused. It's a justice that is fair, balanced, and deeply transformative. Even if you don't see it happening, trust that God's hand is orchestrating their consequences with unmatched wisdom. He defends the innocent. If you've been hurt, you might feel unprotected and vulnerable, as though the world has turned its back on you. But remember this: God is a defender of the innocent. He is your shield, your fortress, and your advocate. While you may feel like no one stands for you, God is already standing in the gap, ensuring that the harm done to you does not go unanswered. Imagine a courtroom where you're seated alone, feeling powerless against those who've caused you pain. But then the judge, who knows every detail of your case, rises to speak on your behalf. That judge is God. He doesn't need evidence or witnesses because he's seen it all. He knows the truth not just of their actions, but of their intentions. And his defense of you is not passive, it's active, fierce, and unwavering. God defends the innocent in ways that go beyond our understanding. Sometimes, he brings people into your life who stand with you when you feel most alone. Other times, he orchestrates events that expose the truth, ensuring that those who hurt you are held accountable. You may not always see his defense in real time, but trust that it is happening. Every tear you've cried, every silent prayer you've whispered, he has heard them all, and he is responding. When God defends the innocent, it's not just about protecting them from further harm. It's about restoring their dignity, their strength, and their hope. You might feel broken right now, but God is working to rebuild you stronger than ever. He uses your pain as a foundation for resilience, turning your scars into a testimony of his faithfulness. And here's something powerful to remember: God's defense often involves removing harmful people from your life. Sometimes the greatest act of protection is separation. It might hurt to lose someone who was once close, but if their presence brings harm, God will make a way to shield you from further pain. Trust that his removal is not a loss. It's gain for your future peace and joy. While the person who hurt you might believe they've won, God ensures that the truth will always prevail. His defense is not temporary, it is eternal. The lies told against you, the harm done to you, and the betrayal you suffered are all seen by him, and he will not let them stand. He defends the innocent with a force that no human can overcome. When you feel isolated in your pain, remember that you are not alone. God is fighting for you. He is your defender, your shield, and your champion. You don't have to lift a finger in retaliation, because God's justice and defense are already at work. Trust in Him, for He has promised to protect those who trust in Him. Your pain will not be wasted, and your innocence will not go undefended. He brings restoration to the hurt. If you've been hurt, betrayed, or broken by someone close to you, you might feel as though pieces of you have been lost forever. The pain can leave you shattered, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. But let me assure you, God is a restorer. He doesn't just mend the wounds inflicted upon you, He restores what you've lost and makes you stronger than before. When God steps into your situation, He doesn't stop at healing, He rebuilds, renews, and transforms. You may feel like your trust, joy, or confidence has been stolen from you. The betrayal you endured may have left you doubting your own worth, or questioning whether you'll ever find peace again. But remember this: God is the creator of all things, and there is nothing too broken for Him to restore. The Bible speaks of Him as the one who brings beauty from ashes, the one who can make streams flow in the desert. No matter how devastating your hurt may feel, God is able to bring restoration that far exceeds what you thought was possible. Restoration is not just about repairing what was lost, it's about giving you something better. Think of a house that's been damaged by a storm. When God restores, He doesn't simply patch the holes or repaint the walls. He rebuilds the foundation, strengthens structure, and adds new features that weren't there before. In the same way, when He restores your life, He doesn't just take you back to where you were, He elevates you to a place you couldn't have imagined. You might ask, but how does God restore me when the person who hurt me hasn't even apologized? How can I heal when they seem to go on as if nothing happened? The beauty of God's restoration is that it doesn't depend on them, it depends on Him. While the world's justice often requires an apology or compensation, God's justice is rooted in His love for you. He doesn't wait for the one who hurt you to act before He begins to heal and restore you. God restores you by giving you a renewed sense of identity. When someone close to you betrays you, it can make you question your worth. You might wonder if you deserved the pain or if something about you invited the betrayal. But God reminds you that your value isn't defined by how others treat you. He created you in His image, and your worth is unshakable. As He restores you, He replaces the lies of betrayal with His truth, reminding you that you are loved, chosen, and precious in His eyes. Restoration also comes through the renewal of your joy and peace. When you've been hurt, it can feel impossible to find happiness again. The weight of betrayal might follow you like a shadow, robbing you of moments that should bring you joy. But God is able to lift that weight. He replaces sorrow with joy, anxiety with peace, and bitterness with gratitude. His restoration allows you to smile again, not because the pain didn't happen, but because His healing is greater than the hurt. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of God's restoration is how He uses your pain for a purpose. What was meant to destroy you becomes the very thing He uses to build you up. The lessons learned, the strength gained, and the compassion developed through your pain all become tools for a greater purpose. You become a testimony of His faithfulness, showing others that no matter how deep the hurt, God's restoration is deeper still. If you're wondering when this restoration will come, know that God's timing is perfect. Restoration doesn't always happen overnight, but it does happen. God is already at work in ways you can't see, preparing blessings, opportunities, and relationships that will renew what was lost. Trust that He is not only aware of your pain, but is actively working to restore you. So if you feel like you'll never recover from the hurt you've experienced, hold on to this truth. God is your restorer. He sees the broken pieces, and He is putting them back together in a way that is more beautiful and strong than before. Your pain will not define you, His restoration will. He uses the situation for good. When someone close to you has hurt you, it's easy to feel as though the pain is meaningless, a cruel twist of fate with no purpose. But with God, nothing is wasted, not even your suffering. One of the most profound ways God works in our lives is by taking what was meant for harm and using it for good. He has a way of transforming even the darkest moments into something beautiful, something meaningful. Think about the story of Joseph in the Bible. Betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and falsely accused, and Joseph had every reason to believe his life was ruined. But God had other plans. Every setback Joseph faced was part of a larger plan to position him for something greater. In the end, Joseph not only survived his trials but became a leader who saved countless lives. When he finally faced his brothers, he said, "What you meant for evil, God meant for good." Your situation might not involve a betrayal as dramatic as Joseph's, but the principle remains the same. The pain you're experiencing now can become the foundation for something extraordinary. God is not limited by your circumstances. He can take the betrayal, the tears, and the broken trust and use them to build something that brings glory to His name and blessings to your life. You might be wondering how God could possibly use your pain for good when it feels so overwhelming. The first step is to trust that He is at work, even when you can't see it. While you're focused on the immediate hurt, God sees the bigger picture. He knows how this chapter of your life fits into the story He's writing. And His story always ends in redemption and restoration. One of the ways God uses your pain for good is by building your character. Pain has a way of revealing what's inside of us, our strengths, our weaknesses, and our dependence on God. It's in the fire of trials that we are refined, becoming stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The hurt you've experienced can become the very thing that equips you to handle challenges in the future and to help others who are going through similar struggles. God also uses your pain to open doors to new opportunities. Sometimes, the betrayal of someone close to you is what pushes you out of a situation that wasn't meant for you. It might hurt in the moment, but it can lead to growth, new relationships, and opportunities you wouldn't have pursued otherwise. What feels like a loss is often a setup for a gain that you can't yet see. Finally, the challenge of prayer is not the office of whispering, but the challenge of running out to Christ Himself. Another way God uses your situation for good is by making you a source of inspiration for others. Your story of overcoming betrayal and finding hope in God can be the light that someone else needs in their darkest hour. When they hear how God brought you through, they'll be encouraged to trust Him in their own struggles. If you're feeling stuck in the pain, remember this: God is not finished yet. What you see now is not the end of the story. Trust that He is working behind the scenes, weaving together the threads of your pain into a tapestry of purpose. One day, you'll look back and see how even the worst moments were part of His plan to bring good into your life. Your pain has not been overlooked, and your story is not over. God is taking the ashes of your hurt and turning them into something beautiful. Trust Him, even when it's hard, because His plans for you are good, and His ability to use your pain is limitless. Exposes the truth. If you've been hurt by someone close to you, it's not uncommon to feel like the truth is buried, hidden beneath lies and deception. You may wonder if justice will ever prevail, if those who wronged you will ever face the reality of what they've done. Let me reassure you, God is a God of truth. He does not let lies endure forever. In His perfect timing, He brings everything hidden into the light, exposing the truth and revealing the full weight of the wrong that was done to you. Imagine for a moment the power of light in a dark room. No matter how thick the darkness, a single spark can pierce through and reveal what was once concealed. That's what God does with truth. He shines His light into the darkest corners, uncovering the things people thought they could hide forever. No matter how carefully someone tries to cover their tracks, no matter how skillfully they weave their lies, they cannot escape the all-seeing eyes of God. He cannot escape the all-seeing eyes of God. You might feel like the person who hurt you has managed to fool everyone around them. They may appear innocent to others, their reputation untarnished, while you bear the brunt of the pain. But remember, God's truth cannot be silenced. He sees everything, their actions, their words, even the intentions behind their betrayal. While the world may be deceived for a time, God is already at work, unraveling the lies and preparing to bring the truth to light. When God exposes the truth, it's not just for your sake, it's also for the sake of justice. His exposure is thorough and undeniable, leaving no room for denial or excuse. The person who hurt you will be forced to confront their actions in the full light of day, whether it's through circumstances that reveal their wrongdoing, relationships that unravel, or their own conscience betraying them. The truth will come out, and when it does, it will bring clarity, vindication, and healing to you. Scripture. But exposing the truth is not just about revealing the wrong, it's also about restoring the right. God doesn't expose lies to leave a trail of destruction. He does it to set things in order. When the truth comes out, it not only holds the wrongdoer accountable, but also restores your name, your integrity, and your peace. You are no longer left carrying the weight of their deception, because the light of God's truth has lifted that burden from you. Allowing God's truth has lifted that burden from you. The timing of this exposure is often one of the hardest things to trust. You may feel like it's taking too long, that the person who hurts you is getting away with their actions. But God's timing is always perfect. He knows when and how to reveal the truth in a way that brings the greatest justice and healing. Sometimes He waits to expose the truth because He's preparing you to handle it. Other times, He's giving the wrongdoer an opportunity to repent, but rest assured, His delay is not a denial. The truth will come out when the time is right. As God works to expose the truth, He also prepares your heart. It's natural to feel anger and a desire for revenge when someone has wronged you. But God's process is not about satisfying human vengeance. It's about fulfilling divine justice. Trust Him to handle it in His way and in His time. Focus on your healing, knowing that God is already at work bringing the truth to light. When the truth is finally revealed, it won't just be a moment of vindication. It will be a moment of redemption. You'll see how God has been working all along, weaving together the threads of your pain and His justice to create a tapestry of restoration. The lies that once weighed you down will no longer have power over you. The truth will set you free, just as God promised it would. Hashti, akmira anau, hakstos, habutoshe kahani. The truth will set you free, just as God promised it would. If you feel like you're living under the shadow of someone else's deception, take heart. God is not indifferent to your pain. He is actively working to expose the truth, to bring justice to the situation, and to restore your peace. Trust in Him, for the one who sees all and knows all will ensure that no lie stands forever. The truth will prevail, and when it does, you'll know that God has been with you every step of the way. As we bring this message to a close, let your heart rest in the truth that God is not blind to your pain. Every tear you've shed, every sleepless night, every ache in your soul, He has seen it all, and He is already at work. The hurt you've endured is not forgotten, and the wrongs committed against you will not go unanswered. God, in His infinite wisdom and justice, is addressing every aspect of your suffering. His sorrows are not the only reality in the world, and He is addressing every aspect of your suffering. He convicts the conscience of those who hurt you, stirring their hearts until they cannot escape the weight of their actions. He removes their peace, ensuring that the harm they caused you does not leave them unbothered. He allows the natural consequences of their actions to unfold, showing them that no deed is ever without accountability. He stands as your defender, protecting you and restoring your dignity in ways only He can. Lastly, He will help you reconcile the restraint of your mind, giving you a home that remains free from the invaders and restoring your dignity in ways only He can. He rebuilds what was broken, bringing restoration to your life and ensuring that your scars become a testament to His faithfulness. He uses your pain for good, transforming your trials into triumphs and your story into a beacon of hope for others. And, finally, He exposes the truth, bringing light to every hidden deed and ensuring that justice prevails. Exercise, making food rice, salvation for trans advocates, appreciating the light of the world, and ensuring that justice prevails. Through all of this, God's ultimate goal is not just to address the wrong, but to heal and elevate you. Your suffering, as heavy as it may feel, is not the end of your story. It is a chapter in a greater narrative, one where God's justice, love, and restoration takes center stage. So, if you're still carrying the weight of betrayal, if the hurt caused by someone close to you feels overwhelming, know this: you are not alone. God is with you, working tirelessly to bring healing, vindication, and peace to your life. Trust His process. Trust His timing. And most of all, trust that His justice is perfect. His love for you is unshakable, and His plans for you are good. Your pain will not be in vain. The wrongs will be made right, the truth will prevail, and your heart will find peace again. Hold on to hope, for the One who created you has promised to carry you through. God is on your side, and with Him, nothing is impossible.